I wasn't expecting anything that morning.
Bills, ads, some catalog I never asked for, the usual crap in the mailbox.
But then I saw it. A small, beige envelope. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name. Michael Lane. Not Mike. Not Mr. Lane. Michael. Neatly written, like someone took their time. Like it mattered.
I stood in the kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand, staring at the envelope like it might explode.
I didn't open it right away. Something about it felt off. Or familiar in a way I couldn't place. I left it on the counter, fed the dog, checked my email, went about my routine. But the letter stayed there, like it was watching me. By noon, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I sat down. Peeled it open. And read. Dear Michael. I know I have no right. I know this is probably unwanted. But I need to tell you the truth before I die. I'm your mother. Your birth mother. I left you at the hospital 41 years ago. And not a day has gone by that I didn't wonder who you became. I'm dying now. And I don't want forgiveness. I just want to tell you why. If you're willing, I'd like to see you. Just once. No lies this time. No secrets. Sincerely. Margaret. I read it 3 times. Each time felt worse than the last. I had always known I was adopted. My parents, my real parents, as far as I'm concerned, never hid that from me. I was chosen, they said. Special. But we never talked about her. The woman who gave me life, and nothing else. No name. No letters. Just absence. And now, after 4 decades of silence, she wanted to speak? Now, when she had nothing left to lose? I folded the letter and sat in silence. My phone buzzed. A work email. I didn't care. All I could hear was the word she used. Why? She wanted to tell me why. And somehow, that hit harder than mother. Because that word why had been living quietly inside me my entire life. Dormant. Coiled. Now it was awake. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the letter folded beside me like a question mark that wouldn't stop blinking. Do I go? Do I give her the chance to explain? Or do I let her die in silence, the way she left me? The next morning, I opened the envelope again. At the bottom was a phone number. I stared at it for a long, long time. Then picked up my phone. And dialed. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. A pause. Then. Hello? Her voice was lower than I imagined. Older, sure. But soft. Worn. Like paper that had been folded and unfolded too many times. I didn't answer right away. My chest felt tight, like something ancient was rising up through my ribs. Grief, maybe. Or rage. Or worse. Hope. Is this Michael? Her voice trembled. I could have hung up. Could have ended it there. But I didn't. Yes, I said. Silence. Then a breath. And then the words that dropped through the phone like bricks into water. I never thought I'd hear your voice. It hit me harder than I expected. Because I had never heard hers. And in that instant, something cracked. Why now? I asked. My voice sounded flat, robotic. She exhaled. I'm dying, she said, without drama. Lung cancer. Stage 4. No treatments left. 6 months if I'm lucky. Another silence. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what I wanted to hear. I'm not calling to make peace, she added. I don't deserve peace. I've lived with a hole in my chest for 40 years. I thought if I could see you once, maybe I'd understand what I lost. What I threw away. And what I said. You want me to thank you? Forgive you?
No, she said quickly.
God, no. I wouldn't forgive me either. I don't want to leave this world without looking you in the eye.
Without at least trying to explain. Her voice cracked there.
Not like a cry. More like a breath catching on a wound. I wanted to scream.
To ask why she didn't write earlier. Why she never tried. Why she let strangers, good strangers, yes, raise me without a single letter or phone call or birthday card.
But instead, I just asked. What do you want from me? An hour, she said. 1 hour. Face to face. No expectations. No guilt trips. Just the truth. I closed my eyes. I imagined saying no. Hanging up. Burning the letter. Walking away with my pride intact. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the years.
Maybe it was the father in me, the one who now looked at his own daughter and couldn't imagine leaving her even for a night.
Or maybe it was the kid inside me.
Still staring at the nursery ceiling, waiting for someone who never came.
Where are you? I asked. She gave me the name of a care facility on the east side of the city. Room 314. Any day, she said. Any time. If you come, I'll be there. If you don't, I'll understand. I ended the call. I sat in the dark. And for the first time since childhood, I cried for a woman I had no memory of loving. The facility sat on a quiet corner of the city. No traffic. No sirens. Just the sound of wind brushing dying trees and the faint beep of monitors behind every closed door. I told the nurse at the front desk who I was there to see. She didn't blink. Room 314. Down the left hall. No security. No signature. Just a hallway, a door, and 40 years of silence waiting behind it. I stood outside her room for a full minute. I could hear the soft hiss of oxygen through the door. My reflection in the tiny glass window looked older than usual. Tired. Not afraid. Just tight. Like my body wasn't sure if it wanted to go in or run. But I opened the door anyway. She was sitting up.
Wearing a blue gown, thin blanket across her knees, wiry gray hair pulled back into a loose braid.
A paperback sat on her lap. Pages dog-eared, cover faded.
When she saw me, she froze. The book slipped from her hands.
And for a long second, we just stared.
Her eyes were green.
Exactly like mine. And that stupid detail nearly brought me to my knees. Hi, she said, almost breathless. I didn't answer. I walked in slowly. Sat down in the chair beside her bed. The distance between us was maybe 3 feet. But it felt like a lifetime. You look like your father, she said quietly. That caught me off guard. My real father? I asked, cold. She shook her head. No. The one who raised you. That kind of man deserves the title. I didn't correct her. Because she was right. You really don't remember me, she asked. No, I said. You left before I could. She nodded like she'd expected that. Still stung. I didn't come here to make peace, I said. You asked for 1 hour. I'm giving it to you. She smiled, sad and honest. I'll take it. The room felt small. Air too still. Machines blinked softly in the background, measuring her breath, her heartbeat reminders that this conversation had a timer. So I asked the only question that mattered. Why did you leave me? She looked at her hands. Thin. Veiny. Tired hands. Then back up at me. And said. Because I was 17. And scared. And stupid. Because my parents made me choose between my child and my future. And because I thought someone else could give you the life I couldn't. She took a shaky breath. And I was right. But I still hate myself for it. I didn't speak. Not because I didn't want to. Because I couldn't. She didn't rush. Didn't look away. Just sat there, hands folded in her lap, like a woman finally standing at the edge of her own wreckage, ready to name every piece. I met your father when I was 16, she said. He was older. Not by much, but enough that my parents hated him on sight. I watched her carefully. No emotion on my face. But inside, every word felt like glass under my skin. We got careless, she continued. One night, no protection, no plan. Just the kind of stupid, messy love that burns too hot and dies too fast. Her eyes moved to the window. I told him I was pregnant in the middle of math class. He laughed. Then he disappeared. Of course he did. My parents flipped. Catholic, old school, cold as stone. They told me, either I give you up, or I leave their house with nothing. Her voice didn't tremble. Not yet. I was 17. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't have a car. I had no money, no job, and no clue what to do. She turned back to me. So I did what cowards do. I signed the forms. I gave birth to you in silence. And I left that hospital before sunrise. I didn't interrupt. I just nodded once. Was it easy? I asked, quietly. Her lips tightened. No. Not for a second. I hated myself for years. Every birthday I imagined you. Every Christmas. Every time I saw a boy with green eyes. She swallowed hard. I told myself you were better off. But telling yourself something doesn't mean you believe it. She leaned back against the pillow, exhausted. I moved. Changed cities. Got married later. No other kids. I didn't deserve a second chance. Why didn't you try to find me? I asked. Not once in 40 years? She smiled bitterly. I did. That stunned me. I searched for 5 years. Agencies wouldn't tell me where you were. Sealed records. Confidential placements. I didn't even know your name until I hired someone this year. You found me now, I said. So why didn't you reach out earlier? She looked me in the eyes. And for the first time, I saw everything. Guilt. Grief. Regret. Because I was afraid you'd hate me. And I wasn't strong enough to hear it. We sat in silence again. This time, it felt different. Not heavy. Not angry. Just honest. I never thought I'd get to say any of this, she whispered. I never thought you'd come. I almost didn't. I know. Outside the window, wind picked up, scattering dead leaves across the parking lot. Inside, a woman who broke me at birth was finally telling the truth. And I couldn't decide if that made me feel healed. Or just more human. I didn't say goodbye when I left. Not really. Just nodded, stood up, and walked out. She didn't try to stop me. Didn't cry. Didn't beg for more. She just watched me with eyes that had already lost too much. Eyes that no longer expected to keep anything. The hallway felt colder than when I'd come in. Same fluorescent lights. Same sterile air. But everything inside me had changed shape. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure. It was something messy, like dragging an old wound into the light and seeing how deep it really went. I sat in my car for 10 full minutes before starting the engine. Hands on the wheel. Mouth dry. Mind spinning. Her voice was still in my ears. That soft rasp. Those slow words. I thought someone else could give you the life I couldn't. She was right. She had. But that didn't make it hurt less. Traffic blurred around me. Red lights. Street signs. Billboards. I couldn't see any of it. All I saw were flashes. Her hands as she folded the blanket on her lap. The way her eyes flinched when I asked why. The tremor in her voice when she said my name out loud for the first time. When I pulled into my driveway, the porch light was already on. My daughter's bike lay on the grass. One wheel spinning lazily in the wind. I stood there for a second, staring at it. Then walked inside. "Dad!" Sophie yelled from the couch. Her voice, high, bright, alive, broke something loose in me. She ran up, hugged me around the waist like she always did. But this time, I held her tighter than usual. Too tight. She looked up at me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." After she went to bed, I poured a glass of whiskey and sat in the kitchen alone. The letter lay in front of me again. Its paper felt thinner now. Less threatening. More tragic. I thought about burning it. Letting it vanish the way she once had. But I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop. Googled the care facility. Checked visiting hours. Wrote nothing. Said nothing. But somewhere deep down, I knew. One visit wasn't enough. Not for her. Not for me. Not for the boy who still lived in my bones. Curled in a hospital crib. Waiting for a mother that never came back. The receptionist didn't blink when she saw me again. "Room 314, she asked. I nodded. She smiled softly. "She's been awake all morning. Waiting." That word again. Waiting. This time, the walk down the hall felt different. Like I was walking into something mine. Not a stranger's confession. Not a sad woman's regret. Something deeper. She was sitting up again. Hair brushed. Eyes alert. And when she saw me, she smiled, small, cautious, but real. "I wasn't sure you'd come back," she said. "Neither was I admitted. I took the same chair. Same distance. Same silence for a moment. Then I asked. Why now? Why not 10 years ago? Why not 20? Her smile faded. She looked toward the window, gathering words like broken glass. "I saw you once," she said finally. "Years ago." My heart stuttered. "What?" She nodded slowly. "I hired a private investigator when I turned 60. Retirement hit me hard. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Where you were. Who you became. I didn't want to reach out, just see." "You watched me?" I said, sharper than I meant. "From a distance," she said. "Once. At your wedding." Silence. My throat closed up. "You were there?" She nodded again. "Back row. I left before the reception. I didn't want to ruin your day. You looked so happy." I gripped the armrest, knuckles white. The thought of her being there. Watching me marry the woman I loved. Smiling. Crying. Hiding. It made my skin crawl and ache at the same time. "You stood in the shadows of my life," I said. "Like a ghost." "I was one," she replied. I didn't know what to say. Was it devotion? Cowardice? Both? "I thought seeing you happy would be enough," she whispered. But it wasn't. It just made me realize what I'd missed. I looked at her, then really looked. Her eyes were wet. Hands trembling in her lap. And for the first time, she looked small. Not broken. Not pathetic. Just human. "I'm not here to fix anything," I said finally. "I know. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. I wouldn't if I were you." I paused. "But I want to understand you." She blinked, startled. Then smiled again, tired, but grateful. That's all I ever hoped for. The machine next to her beeped softly. A nurse peeked in. She waved them off. I'm not done yet, she said. Then looked back at me. Would you let me tell you about the day you were born? And I nodded. Because part of me had always wondered where I started. Now I was ready to hear it. She shifted in the bed, gently, like the memory itself made her bones ache. I didn't want to give birth in that hospital, she began. It was cold. Loud. They put me in a shared room. Another girl was screaming. Her husband held her hand the whole time. She looked away. I was alone. The words landed like stones. She didn't say them for pity. Just to tell them. They induced me, she continued. Said it would be easier. Safer. I was 2 weeks early, and you were small, but healthy. She paused. Smiled faintly. You had this wrinkled little forehead. Like you were already worried about the world. I felt something shift in my chest. Some crack widening. They let me hold you, she whispered. Only once. 5 minutes. No longer. I wasn't supposed to, but one nurse, I don't know her name, she looked at me and said, you'll regret it forever if you don't. She turned to me, eyes shining. She was right. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. I pictured myself a newborn, wrapped in white, blinking up at a teenage girl with tear-streaked cheeks. A stranger who was supposed to be my beginning. I kissed your forehead, she said. That's all I had time for. Then they took you. She exhaled shakily. I heard you cry down the hall. And then you were gone. She looked at her lap again. I signed the papers that night. I didn't sleep. I walked out the next morning before the sun came up. My father was waiting in the car. He never said a word. My throat burned. I wanted to ask, why didn't you run? But I already knew. 17. Alone. No money. No one on her side. And a world that punishes women for every scar they carry. I don't remember the nurse's name, she repeated. But I remember your weight in my arms. I remember your smell. I remember thinking you had the most serious eyes I'd ever seen. She looked up. And for a heartbeat, the air between us changed. Something passed through it. Grief. Memory. Maybe even love. Or the ghost of what could have been. I used to dream of that moment, I said quietly. The first time you saw me. I used to hope, maybe you smiled. She did. I did, she whispered. We sat in silence. No need to fill it. No need to fix it. Because for the first time, we were both standing at the edge of that same day. Not as strangers, but as two people broken by the same memory. The drive home was longer this time. Not because of traffic, but because I kept seeing her face. That room. That moment she said, I kissed your forehead. I'd spent most of my life pretending I didn't care about her absence. Now I couldn't stop feeling it. But right behind that ache was something else. Something I hadn't expected. Gratitude. When I pulled into the driveway, my adoptive mom was sitting on the porch. Knitting, like always. She looked up and smiled. You're home early, she said. I sat down beside her without speaking. The sun was dipping behind the trees. Crickets just starting to hum. And for a long time, we just watched the light fade. I went to see her, I said finally. She didn't ask who. She knew. She sent you that letter? I nodded. She set the yarn down in her lap. I wondered if you would. I turned toward her. You knew this day might come? Her eyes never left the horizon. We always knew. From the moment we brought you home. One day, she'd come back or you'd go looking. She paused. We just prayed it would happen when you were strong enough to handle it. I swallowed hard. She held me once. For 5 minutes. My mom nodded, slowly. I'm glad. That broke something in me. I don't know why. Maybe because there was no bitterness in her voice. No fear of being replaced. Just quiet acceptance. Like love that doesn't flinch. She said she was scared, I said. Young. Pressured. Alone. My mom reached over and took my hand. She probably was. She said she thought someone else could give me a better life. My mom turned to face me. And did we? I didn't answer right away. Because suddenly, memories came rushing in. Her wiping my nose in the winter. Him teaching me to ride a bike. The warm lasagna every Friday night. The way they cried when I graduated. The way they never made me feel like a second choice. Yes, I said. You gave me more than I ever knew I needed. She smiled then, soft and full. And I realized something that shook me. I had been abandoned. But I had also been loved more than most people get in a lifetime. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, I said. You don't have to know, she said gently. You just have to feel it. Let it hurt. Let it breathe. The rest will come. We sat there as the light vanished. And for once, I didn't feel like a man with a missing piece. I felt like a man. Finally seeing the whole puzzle. It came in a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in shaky cursive. The postmark was from a week before I ever visited. Before I'd said a word. Before I'd seen her face. I sat in the living room, sunlight slanting across the coffee table, the house quiet. The envelope felt heavy. Not in weight, in intent. Like it had waited 40 years just to reach my hands. Inside. 3 pages. Lined paper. Blue ink. It began simply. Dear Matthew. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't even know if it will find you. But I needed to write it anyway. I closed my eyes. Her voice echoed in my head as I read. Like she was sitting beside me, whispering each word into the room we never shared. I'm writing this because I might not get to say it out loud. Maybe I'll be too scared. Maybe you won't come. And if that happens, I want you to know something you deserve to hear. I turned the page. My hands trembling now. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I did. Because I knew what it meant to grow up in a house like mine. Because I knew what kind of mother I would have been at 17, angry, lost, bitter. And you didn't deserve that. Tears blurred the ink. I wiped my eyes. Kept reading. I thought staying would destroy you. And I thought leaving would destroy me. I was right about both. My throat locked. There were no sounds in the room. No birds. No wind. Just her words. Cutting through silence like glass. I've carried you every day since. Not a single year has gone by where I didn't wonder if you were safe. If someone held you when you cried. If someone cheered for you when you ran. I prayed they did. Final page. Last paragraph. A confession. A wish. If you're reading this, thank you. Thank you for existing. Thank you for being alive. Even if I couldn't be there to see it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope, someday, you might let me sit beside the man you became. Even if only in silence. The last line was a single sentence. You were never unloved. I folded the letter. Held it to my chest. And for the first time in my life, I believed her. She looked smaller the third time I visited. Thinner. Palest I'd ever seen her. But her eyes lit up when I walked in brighter than before. Not with hope. Not even with relief. Just warmth. Like an ember someone thought was gone.
You came again, she said, almost laughing.
I did.
I pulled the chair closer this time.
Not 3 feet away.
Not behind the line of caution. Right beside her bed.
She didn't ask what changed. But I told her anyway. I got your letter. She inhaled.
I saw it, the panic behind her smile.
You didn't have to read that, she said.
It was desperate.
No, I said. It was real. For the first time, she looked like she didn't know what to say.
So I spoke first.
You were wrong.
She flinched.
Wrong about what?
I leaned forward. You said I was never unloved.
But I spent most of my life wondering if I was even wanted. She blinked fast, lips trembling. I don't say that to hurt you, I interrupted. I say it because it matters. Because that feeling doesn't go away just because you send a letter.
Or say sorry.
She nodded. Eyes glistening.
But you were also right, I added.
Someone did hold me when I cried. Someone did show up. Every game. Every fever. Every nightmare.
I smiled faintly.
You gave me up. But they gave me back to the world.
She reached for a tissue, dabbed her cheeks.
No sobbing. No drama.
Just quiet weeping, the kind that comes from knowing you can't fix what's broken, but you can witness it. I used to think about you when I tucked my daughter in, I said. Wondered if you ever felt guilt at night. If your chest ever hurt when you thought about what you missed.
I did, she whispered. Every night. We sat for a while. Listening to the machines hum.
Her fingers tapped lightly against the blanket, nervous habit, maybe. Or a rhythm she'd carried all her life. You have a daughter, she said, softer now.
Sophie. 9 years old. Big eyes. Big questions. And a scary sense of humor.
She smiled, and it lit her up.
She sounds like you. I chuckled. She's louder.
She turned to the window.
The clouds had rolled in. Light flickering behind them, like a storm deciding if it wanted to be born.
I wish I could meet her, she said.
Maybe one day, I said. When I'm ready. She didn't push. Didn't beg. Just nodded. And whispered, thank you for this. I stayed longer that day. Told her about Sophie's soccer team. My wife's garden.
How bad I was at fixing the sink. And she listened like it was scripture.
Because in a way. It was.
It was the gospel of the life she missed.
And I was letting her hold it, if only for a moment. Room 314 was open when I arrived. Lights off. Bed made. No flowers. No sound. Just sterile stillness. And for a split second, my heart stopped.
I stepped inside, as if I could conjure her back by standing where she once lay. But she was gone.
Not her belongings. Not her scent. Just her. A nurse passed by. Young. Blonde. Kind eyes. Excuse me, I said. Where's the patient from this room? She glanced at the clipboard. Margaret, she asked. I nodded.
She was moved this morning.
ICU. That word hit like a punch. ICU. The line between still fighting and almost gone. Can I see her? The nurse hesitated. Then nodded slowly. She's allowed one visitor. I'll take you. The walk to the ICU was longer than it should have been. My footsteps felt loud. Each one counting down the seconds I had left. My throat tightened. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Not like this. They buzzed me in. Led me past white curtains and beeping machines.
Until we stopped at the last bed.
There she was. Pale. Unmoving. Tubes in her nose. 4 in her arm. But breathing. Barely. She took a bad turn overnight, the nurse whispered. Kidneys are failing. We're keeping her comfortable. I stepped forward. My knees felt weak. But I gripped the railing and leaned in. Margaret, I whispered. No response. Her chest rose and fell. Slow. Labored. But it moved. And for now, that was enough. I sat beside her again. Same posture. Same hands folded in my lap. But this time, I didn't wait for her to speak. I just talked. I brought Sophie to piano lessons this morning. She hit a wrong note and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. I paused. She doesn't know about you yet. I didn't know what to say. My voice cracked. But I'll tell her. Someday. The machines beeped slowly. Her eyelids fluttered, maybe from my voice, maybe from dreams. I kept going. I used to think I didn't need to know where I came from. That what mattered was now. But I was wrong. I looked at her face, peaceful, despite the wires and tubes. You mattered. Even when I hated you, you mattered. I reached for her hand. It was cold. But not empty. I held it. And something in me settled. Like a knot slowly loosening after years of tension. If you have to go, I said, I won't stop you. A tear slid down my cheek. But I'm here. And I see you now. Not just the woman who left. But the girl who was scared. The mother who couldn't stay. The person who still tried. I stayed there for hours. Until the sun dropped low. Until the nurse came back and said gently, visiting hours are over. I kissed her hand once. Not because she'd hear it. But because someone once kissed mine, and maybe that moment traveled across time. As I left the room, I didn't feel empty. I felt ready. Not for goodbye. But for truth. The phone rang at 2:47 a.m. I was already awake. Not from nightmares. Just a heaviness in my chest. A stillness that felt like the world was holding its breath. I reached for the phone without thinking. The hospital's number blinked on the screen. I didn't hesitate. Mr. Lawson, a voice said, soft and steady. Yes. I'm sorry to tell you. Margaret passed an hour ago. Peacefully. In her sleep. I didn't cry. Not at first. Not because I didn't care. But because she made it. To the end. With truth on her lips. With someone beside her. With no more secrets. Thank you, I said quietly. I'm so sorry for your loss. I hung up. Stared at the dark ceiling. And for the first time since her letter arrived, I felt light. Not joy. Not relief. But peace. The kind that comes when the storm finally runs out of wind. I walked to the living room. Sophie's drawing sat on the coffee table, a house, a dog, a son with a smiling face. And in the corner, 3 stick figures. One small. One tall. And one in the middle, holding their hands. I hadn't noticed that before. I sat down and closed my eyes. Remembered her final smile. Remembered her voice. You were never unloved. She died with no medals. No obituary in the paper. No legacy carved in marble. But she left something else. A son who finally knew his beginning. A wound that finally stopped bleeding. A silence that had been given a name. The next morning, I told Sophie. She listened quietly, her big eyes locked on mine. Was she sad? Yes, I said. But she was also brave. Did she love you? I nodded. She just didn't know how to show it, until the end. Sophie came closer, wrapped her arms around my waist. "I'm glad you found her," she whispered. I hugged her back, tighter than usual. We went for a walk that evening. Sophie picked wildflowers along the trail. And when she wasn't looking, I bent down and added one more. A small white daisy. I didn't say why. Didn't need to. Some goodbyes don't need words. Just remembrance. That night, I dreamed of her. Not in the hospital. Not young and crying. But sitting on a porch somewhere, older, calmer, a cup of tea in her hands. She didn't speak. She just smiled. And I smiled back. If you like this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.